Have you ever witnessed a moment that restored your faith in humanity? A moment where kindness prevailed against indifference? If this story touches your heart, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more stories that remind us of the good in this world. Eleanor Matthews stood outside Bellini's, her weathered hands clutching her purse as tears threatened to spill from her faded blue eyes. The hostess had just informed her that despite her reservation, made weeks in advance for her 80th birthday, they couldn't accommodate her. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we're overbooked tonight. Perhaps you could come back another time?" The young woman's voice held no real sympathy, her eyes already scanning the crowd for the next customer. Another time. As if turning 80 was something that happened regularly. As if Eleanor hadn't spent weeks looking forward to this dinner, to treating herself to something special after years of putting everyone else first. As if the carefully applied lipstick and the dress she'd saved for occasions just like this didn't matter. Behind her, a man with kind eyes noticed her shoulders slump. James Wilson had come to Bellini's with his 7-year-old daughter Lily for their weekly daddy-daughter date. He wasn't wealthy, far from it. As a single father working 2 jobs to make ends meet after his wife's death 3 years ago, these Friday dinners were a luxury he scrimped and saved for. But something about the elderly woman's dejected posture struck a chord in him. "Excuse me," he said, approaching Eleanor. "I couldn't help overhearing. Today is your birthday?" Eleanor nodded, embarrassed by the tears that now slid down her cheeks. "My 80th, silly of me to make such a fuss." Lily tugged at her father's sleeve. "Daddy, isn't 80 a really important birthday? Like, super important?" James smiled at his daughter's innocent wisdom. "It absolutely is, sweetheart." He turned to the hostess. "We have a reservation for 2, but we'd be honored if this lady would join us instead." The hostess looked uncomfortable. "Sir, we're very busy tonight." "Then we'll squeeze in," James said firmly. 3 can fit at a table for 2. Or my daughter can sit on my lap. We'll make it work." Eleanor began to protest, but Lily had already taken her hand. "Please come with us. Daddy says birthdays are for celebrating with people who care about you. And we care about you, don't we, Daddy?" James nodded, his eyes warm. "We absolutely do." That was how Eleanor Matthews found herself seated at a small table with 2 strangers who quickly became friends. As they waited for their food, Eleanor learned that James worked as a mechanic during the day and drove for a rideshare company 3 nights a week. Lily proudly told Eleanor about her 2nd-grade class and how she was learning to read chapter books. "My wife loved to read," James said softly. "She used to say books were like portable magic." "That's from Stephen King," Eleanor remarked, surprising both herself and James. "I taught English literature for 42 years before retiring." James laughed. "Sarah would have loved you. She was always quoting authors I'd never heard of." As their meals arrived, Eleanor found herself sharing stories she hadn't told in years. About her late husband George, who had died 15 years ago. About their son Michael, who lived across the country with his family and rarely called. About how the house that had once been filled with students and colleagues and friends now echoed with silence. "Sometimes I feel invisible," she admitted. "Like I've outlived my usefulness." James shook his head. "I don't believe that for a second. Look at how you've brightened our evening. Lily hasn't stopped smiling since we sat down." It was true. The little girl was beaming, hanging on Eleanor's every word as she described what schools were like, in the olden days. When the waiter brought their desserts, he also carried a small cake with a single candle. "Compliments of the chef," he said with a wink. "We heard there was a special birthday being celebrated." Eleanor discovered that James had quietly spoken to their server while she was chatting with Lily. The entire restaurant joined in singing, "Happy Birthday," and for the first time in years, Eleanor felt seen. Valued. Remembered. As they finished their meal, Eleanor insisted on paying, but James wouldn't hear of it. "This is your birthday gift," he said firmly. "From us to you." "But you work so hard for your money," Eleanor protested. "I can't accept." "You're not accepting money," James interrupted gently. "You're accepting friendship. There's a difference." Outside the restaurant, Eleanor hesitated. The thought of returning to her empty house after such a wonderful evening filled her with dread. Sensing her reluctance, Lily tugged at her hand. "Do you want to come see my books? I have a whole shelf full." James smiled apologetically. "She's very proud of her collection." "I'd love to," Eleanor said, surprising herself. "If it's not too much trouble." Their apartment was small but warm, filled with photographs and children's artwork. While Lily excitedly showed Eleanor her bookshelf, James made tea. The three of them spent the evening reading stories aloud, with Lily nestled between them on the worn sofa. When it was time for Eleanor to leave, James insisted on driving her home. "It's too late for the bus, and I'd never forgive myself if something happened to you." At her doorstep, Eleanor found herself fighting tears again. "I don't know how to thank you both. This has been the most wonderful birthday I've had in decades." James hesitated, then asked, "Would you like to join us next Friday? Our reservation is at 6:30. "Oh, I couldn't impose." "Please, Miss Eleanor," Lily pleaded. "You read the voices better than Daddy does." And so began a tradition. Every Friday, Eleanor joined James and Lily for dinner. Sometimes at Bellini's, sometimes at more modest establishments, and occasionally at their apartment where Eleanor taught Lily how to bake her famous apple pie. As weeks turned into months, Eleanor found herself looking forward to Fridays with an excitement she hadn't felt in years. She started volunteering at Lily's school, reading to the children during lunch breaks. The principal, recognizing her experience, asked if she would consider starting a reading program for struggling students. Suddenly, Eleanor's days were full again. Her expertise was valued, her presence requested. When she mentioned to James that she was having trouble keeping up with her garden, he began stopping by on Sunday mornings to help. Sometimes he brought tools to fix things around her house, a leaky faucet, a sticky door, a wobbly banister. "You don't have to do this," she told him one day as he replaced a burnt-out porch light. "I know," he replied simply. "I want to." A year after that fateful birthday dinner, Eleanor's son Michael called unexpectedly. "Mom, I've been trying to reach you for days." "Where have you been?" Eleanor laughed. "Oh, I've been busy. Mondays and Wednesdays I volunteer at the school. Tuesdays I have my book club. Thursdays I help at the community garden. And Fridays, well, Fridays are special." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Mom, are you okay? You sound different." "I'm more than okay, Michael. I'm living." That Sunday, when James and Lily arrived for their usual visit, Eleanor had news. "Michael and his family are coming for Christmas. They want to meet you both." James smiled. "We'd be honored." As they sat on Eleanor's porch, watching Lily chase butterflies in the garden they had restored together, Eleanor reflected on how much had changed in a year. From feeling invisible and forgotten on her 80th birthday to having a calendar full of commitments and a heart full of love. "You know," she said quietly to James, "when that hostess turned me away last year, I thought it was the universe telling me I didn't matter anymore. That I was too old to take up space in the world." James took her hand, his calloused fingers gentle against her papery skin. "And what do you think now?" Eleanor smiled, watching Lily carefully pick a flower to add to the bouquet she was creating. "Now I think that sometimes the universe has to close one door so we notice when the right one opens." As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the lawn, Eleanor felt a contentment she hadn't experienced in years. She had learned that family wasn't always defined by blood, that purpose could be found at any age, and that sometimes, the greatest gifts came from the most unexpected sources. And it had all started because a single father and his daughter had been willing to share their table with a stranger on her 80th birthday. If this story touched your heart, remember that small acts of kindness can change someone's entire world. We never know the battles others are fighting or how much a simple gesture might mean. Like Eleanor, many elderly people struggle with loneliness and feeling forgotten. And like James, many single parents are doing their best with limited resources. Take a moment today to reach out to someone who might be feeling invisible. Share your table, your time, your heart. And if this message resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us of our shared humanity and the power of compassion. Because in a world where we can be anything, being kind is always the right choice.